One of the things that's interesting about Bitcoin is that it gets less risky the higher it goes. So that's the opposite of what happens with most stocks. But because Bitcoin is so early in the adoption cycle, I mean, you can't, even though the OCC will allow all the big banks and investment banks to custody or to buy and sell Bitcoin, you can't do that at any of them. So they're permitted to, but they haven't done it yet because basically I think they're concerned. But every day, Bitcoin's a supply-demand story. There's 900 new Bitcoins created every day. It's estimated that PayPal and Square alone their customers are buying all of those. And Bitcoin's total supply is growing less than 2% a year. And it's obvious by the price that the demand is growing much, much faster than that. So as long as that obtains, Bitcoin is likely to go higher and perhaps considerably higher.
Hey guys, what is up? It's Dusty here and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Crypto News. And today, I have a couple of very interesting topics for you. And what I just showed you was an interview with Bill Miller, and what he basically talks about is something which I want you all to learn and kind of keep in the back of your head. Cryptos will most likely keep going up over time, mostly because the demand far outweighs the supply. And specifically for Bitcoin, it's as of this point, inflationary asset, but it will turn into a deflationary asset, which it kind of already is because the absolute supply keeps decreasing, but the current supply, of course, keeps increasing for the short term. The point being, more and more Bitcoin is being lost. More and more Bitcoin is being bulked up by people or companies that will never let go. The amount of transferable Bitcoin is getting less and less and less. That's something which I want you guys to keep in the back of your head. Right now, there's a very interesting correlation with Bitcoin in the stock market. And whenever I say Bitcoin, I mean the entire crypto market, but that might change. And in this video, a couple of really interesting topics, because we just heard what a billionaire thinks about crypto. A little bit later in that interview, he says that the majority of people ask, where's the price going to go to? And his kind of response to that is Bitcoin will keep correcting heavily and keep spiking heavily. And most of the times, whenever it dips, people are expecting a further dip, and once it flips over, people are asking, should I buy now? And then it keeps going up. People are too hesitant to buy, and they basically sell at the most unopportunistic times, basically. We see that over and over again. How high will it go? I personally think, and I think majority of billionaires think, it'll keep going up forever. But that's, again, our first little topic, which we covered. Then I want to get into a very interesting piece. It's actually about the Apple co-founder who calls Bitcoin pure gold. Then to kind of attach to that, there's a video of mine that I made a little while ago with the title, Crypto Holders Critical Warning. It was actually yesterday. One of the comments here is, I think, from a bot account, because that's what it kind of looks like. But the question is pretty important, and it's basically about things being overpriced and a correction coming of sorts. And I kind of want to talk about that specific subject as well. What if a crash does come? How do we prepare? It coincides with the story of Bill Miller that we just talked about, but still, I think it is an important one. Then I want to briefly, and just a little bit, talk about XRP. This article says XRP sees huge accumulation. I want to talk about what exactly is going on there, as the XRP price was doing pretty well yesterday. And then our last two topics are Terra, once again, because they've been doing really amazing. Terra is now DeFi's network of choice after Ethereum. I want to cover that a little bit more and why I'm such a big fan of Terra. And last but not least, this is a very big subject. Is Bitcoin going to separate from the S&P, which coincides with the Bill Miller story from earlier, but also is a whole separate theory? We also have a couple of additional articles to aid with that. For example, Ukraine spending a lot of the crypto budget they've gotten, and the fact that the whole Ukraine situation, in some weird way, shape, or form, is changing the entire course of crypto. Alright, so let me tackle a couple of these articles at once. Here's an article on why this billionaire, again Bill Miller, is bullish on crypto in times of trouble. You guys have most likely seen that quite a lot of people compare Bitcoin to gold. Well, I don't personally think it's the same. It might be the newer gold or the gold of our generation, that's for sure, I guess. However, I don't think they're completely the same. And that mostly relies on the fact that gold is this asset which is so old and, in that sense, pretty stable for almost any scenario we can think of. However, it is becoming increasingly more difficult to use it in these modern times. And in reality, people are only doing the whole let's buy gold thing because it's kind of engraved in their brains. The intrinsic value that people see in gold really is not as beautiful as I think it once was in terms of how useful it is or how much people should be hoarding it. And I honestly think that this just goes with generations, basically. So before it was gold, and again, the actual value of gold is just, it's a shiny piece of metal. People think, wow, shiny, nice, I want to have that. There's a limited amount of it, and it has some uses. However, I think that that's the older generation because that was something they could hoard and kind of really think to want to have the possessions. Right now, it's kind of turning over into a potentially crypto type of want to have because it's actually a lot more useful, and it's something which, again, our generation can kind of think of, I want to hoard this, I want to keep this. And we're seeing right now in the whole Ukraine situation, which we're covering in just a little bit, that it can actually save your own life if you actually hold a lot of crypto. Because think about this. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, you are in a specific country around the world that has lost access to almost every other country out there because of sanctions. Well, you're in luck because you have crypto that you control yourself, and regardless of what type of sanctions are bestowed upon you, you can pay your freaking bills through the other side of the world because you have a payment type that nobody can take away from you. If you have to walk around with your gold bar all across the world, that's going to be difficult. And so in this scenario, I would say to really keep stable, I honestly think gold might take the cake for a good while as the older generation kind of quote unquote fades away. And then again, our newer generation will most likely appreciate a lot more for the benefits. However, this article actually had a different approach, and he basically says that right now, a lot of token creators are trying to kind of lure you in with all these big brand partnerships and whatnot. And there's something important to be said about that. I honestly think there's only a handful of crypto that should be quote unquote hoarded. Again, this is not financial advice, just my own opinion. But the majority of crypto in this realm right now are purely meant as money grabs for the people who found it. A lot of them will not go through any of the plans that they have. A lot of them will not really build in the way which we hope them to or expect them to. I've told you the exact same thing about NFTs and about a lot of metaverse projects which are trying to build a game over the next couple of years. As I've said before, I have worked on a lot of games. I have been promoting / I guess helping to create games for years now. I know a lot about it. And I also, I would say, have insights to know which ones will most likely survive and which ones won't. In a couple of my panel discussions, if you guys haven't seen that, I'll post it somewhere one of these times. I basically sat down and talked with a lot of crypto influencers or people. And what we always come down to is this whole metaverse realm. What I always say to people, and this is very critical, if the game launches in a couple of years from now, like I think Starlink, Illuvium, or Star Atlas, Illuvium, I think both of them will launch in like 6-7 years or so. If that's the case, I don't think it's worth speculating on the actual game part. We can speculate on the token price, not the actual game itself. Because right now, 2022, if we're going to speculate for 2030, we don't know if all these cryptos will be, like let's say the market will be $2 trillion or $45 trillion. So we don't know if there's going to be 3 fully functional games, 7,000 fully functional games. Because look at what happened in the last decade for crypto. It's unimaginable how much it's grown. If you're waiting for a product that many years into the future, when crypto right now is going at a crazy exponential curve, I think it's too risky. Again, my thoughts, because these guys are getting too much funds for too long a time. And so I think if there's any new project, it needs to be happening quickly. There's too much of this luring going on, which has taken a lot of definition away from the traditional cryptos. Now, why is this relevant? It's to kind of guide you guys through what I am seeing, right? I talk to a lot of crypto founders. I know so many of them personally. I've met you wouldn't imagine how many I've met throughout these last couple of years. So I can also kind of understand who's BSing me and who's really making a coin that's going to last. If I cover it on the channel, I've talked with the founder most likely, or at least I really, really like it and I'm holding a lot of it. It's not because I'm trying to promote my own bags. As you guys know, I don't do that on the channel. What I do is talk to you guys about what I think is wise, what I think is the best for all of us. At the end of the day, it doesn't hurt me to talk about what exactly I think will do well for us. And if I make a mistake, I own up to it because, again, it doesn't really, I don't care about the credibility. I don't care about the loss. It's all about, I would say, accumulating more or, I guess, doing better than we were doing yesterday. So now how does that tie into the rest of our story? There's a lot of articles which we've read about the S&P and Bitcoin kind of straying out of each other. Let me tell you guys right now. As long as this idea is in people's heads that Bitcoin is not really related to gold in the same sense, and that Bitcoin is an investment vehicle, and that we, again, should be buying and should be FOMOing in because of what we're seeing here, because of crazy announcements, the S&P and Bitcoin will be quite correlated, because there'll be this idea of making money with this specific asset and not using this asset for the freedom of transfer flow or flow of money or whatever, value of flow. You guys understand what I mean? As long as that idea is there, there's a very high probability that people will speculate on assets and Bitcoin, which again is then seen as an asset instead of a currency as well. So will that change though because of the conflict? I'm going to say there's a very high probability it is. Look at this. Ukraine spending $15 million worth of crypto donations on the military budget. This is a key turning point for the full adoption of crypto, because we're seeing for the first time that an entire country is not just using it as an investment vehicle. People are not sending their money as an investment vehicle. People are sending their money, and a entity here is literally using it to the best of their ability, to the best of what it was purposely built for. But then also on the other side, Russia. We're seeing sanctions be kicked in. And even though, this is critical, cryptocurrencies will most likely not be used to evade sanctions on a grand scale for countries totally, because all the on and off ramps will still be sanctioned. So it's not going to change and make things really bad and anything like that. What it is going to allow for people to do, and I would say that's most important, is for a lot of people to still get their groceries if they were locked out. For a lot of people to still have this side way of using potentially a little bit of additional capital here to, again, make their lives better. But let's just digress from that part a little bit, because I don't want to speculate too much on this evading sanctions in the smallest parts. I want to stay true to the point here. With this specific new development, what we're seeing, again, this is just my opinion, is we're seeing a very big shift from people using it as an investment vehicle only to actually seeing the critical use in critical necessity times, where it's actually being used as the purpose it was built for. And so can it then stray away more from the S&P? I think so. Now, as we're seeing more and more crises and more things of that nature, it might be that the assets will keep trending downwards. And we've seen Bill Miller and a couple of others say, there will be a lot of volatile times. And let's go back to the earlier point. What happens if we get a big crash? Well, I honestly think that crypto crashes are very normal. So what should you do? I personally just keep buying my way down. Why? Because again, I'm seeing this shift in how people appreciate it. I know that there's so much more demand than supply. I understand that people right now are speculating too much on the future of this investment vehicle rather than the actual money attribute of it. And so what I'm also thinking is, as that value keeps increasing, the value people see in actually using it as a valuable object of trade instead of just an investment vehicle, it'll keep increasing. The demand is showing that. We are all seeing it. So the price may fall and keep going in waves, right now following the S&P quite clearly, but I think that will change. And so I think that same 80% correction type of narrative will also change in due time. What I'm doing, every single time it drops lower, I buy more. Why? Honestly, because I think it's the best decision for me. You might say, and rightfully so, don't do that. Buy the dip or buy once, or don't buy extra. Just keep what you have or sell at the top. I have this philosophy of keeping my fiat and my cryptocurrencies as separate things in my sort of portfolio. I don't see my cryptos as something I want to sell to get more fiat. I see my cryptos as something I want to sell potentially to buy more crypto, or my fiat to use as something to get either more of fiat or potentially more into crypto, because this is at the end of the day what I think will work the best over longer periods of time. I use fiat as some part to be safe, but really, whenever we look back at my theories here, I'm like, so crypto will be the future. I'm pretty sure of that. We've seen huge inflation. We've seen scenarios here where just your own fiat is really not the safest bet or the best one. But then again, gold is pretty stable, but we don't know the future of that. We don't know if there's actually a future in gold too much, because it's more for the older generation. The newer generation is not so obsessed with gold as the older was. And so that might kind of go out of fashion. Assets, again, can fall and rise with Bitcoin in the same sense as well. So what exactly is safe? Bonds? Not really. Countries can definitely take the hammer here. And what if indeed some bigger WAR does come out? what is safe? What is best? Watches, well, they can crash. They've been doing really well for a long time. What is good? And then I keep coming back to thinking, well, crypto may crash, yeah, but we see the use case and we know it's going to come back up. And I can't really say the same thing about any state currency like that. Because I do think that most currencies like the euro and dollar would not fall to oblivion within the next couple of years. No, I don't think so. But I do believe that crypto is a longer term value. Now, in that sense, I also am an honest believer in DeFi. I'm doing a lot with Terra right now. So we can see the ecosystem for this one growing, rightfully so as well. There's a ton of TVL, total value locked. There's a ton of money locked in there. And I believe that's because UST on Terra is the first decentralized stablecoin, at least the biggest one, the most proper one. And we're starting to see that even though it is theoretically speaking backed by the dollar and kind of it has a one-to-one with the dollar, it is done in a decentralized manner. And it really makes people realize that what the rich, again, I'm going to call the rich, people with like a net worth of 20 million plus, are doing in the normal world. If you go right now to your own bank, you say, I have 20 million bucks, I want to invest, you get a private advisor who helps you out through the entire journey. You might get 20% of a return a year or something like that, 10, 12, 15, 20%. They can help you with that, sometimes even 34% a year. However, through DeFi, anybody with like $1, $500, $10, whatever, gets the opportunity to do this for themselves. And it's crazy numbers, 20% a year. So on $10 million, that is $5,000 you are making a day. And I know $10 million, of course, is not reasonable for many people, but get the idea. You can do this from your own home. You don't need to go anywhere. But let's numb that down. So again, $1 million would, I believe, be about 500 a day. We can kind of tune it down another layer. So $100,000 is $50 every single day that you're getting just for having money. Money makes money in this world is the truth, but the fact you can do it from your own freaking laptop here in front of your computer just like that by clicking a couple of buttons and be completely free to do with it as you please. Yeah, that sits well with me, guys. Sits really well. So to conclude here a little bit, I honestly think that buying our way down is the best way to go about these things. And regarding XRP, I just believe that this is the best altcoin opportunity we have right now. As I said, I think 95% of the altcoins will fade. And if I had to make a choice, I would say XRP is one of those currencies which has the highest potential to survive any sort of crash or whatever. So there's a couple others. I think Ethereum will keep doing well. I think Solana is going to definitely do really, really well. I think Luna/Terra is going to do really, really well. But I think XRP has the most potential to just break out and go crazy in this year. There's another video which I'm making here, which is going to be about when I think it's going to be over, which is also with Jeremy Hogan and whatnot. You guys have most likely seen it, part of it already. But yeah, I just think this coin is going to pop off this year. Within 12 months, I think at least like a 7x or so. That's what I'm hoping for. And again, remember, let's say we had, let's say a $12.5 thousand. If the XRP goes 8x, we got ourselves $100,000, which again, if we even keep it in stablecoin and lend it out, that's again $50 every single day that we're getting from that point forward. And that's what I'm sometimes thinking in terms of building as well. To not just only build a crypto asset portfolio, and again, to not stay with fiat too much, but again, with stablecoin and start stacking that as well. I already do that, but I'm kind of building it up for you guys as well with my whole stories here. Building more stablecoin portfolios, or I guess yield baskets of sorts, purely because that's what's potentially keep giving you the cash flow to keep doing things, even though I think crypto is a better opportunity for quicker gains. It's just not the gamble, not the risk, because it will keep going up over long periods of time, but it could also be that, again, Bitcoin does follow the halving cycles and it'll take another year and a half before we start pumping again. It's always possible. It's always feasible. But longer term, I'm set in stone for all this stuff. And that's, I guess, the journey for right now. Not sure what I'm going to title this. I have absolutely no idea. Most likely something crazy again. So make sure you press the like button if you enjoyed these videos. This one was hopefully insightful, because it's a little bit of blabbering on, but I think the message is quite clear and quite important for most people to understand this crypto stuff. It's so important to get it. Once you're into it, you'll never get out.